Welcome. Welcome to 2025. Imagine it's already 1/4 of the century gone. We are closer to 2050 than we are to 2000. And we all remember 2000, that magic moment. We are so excited to be back with you here for our first BTO talk on generative AI. After an impactful and exciting 2024, we can expect even more in 2025. My name is Michael Alf, calling from Lisbon and co-founder of BTO, together with my partner, one of the two, Rob. Over to you, Rob.
Yes, Michael, thank you. And what a dynamic start to our session and our year, indeed. Rob Thurner, I'm based in London and working with clients and business schools globally to assist their digital transformation programs and adoption in the business. Now, you mentioned, Michael, so much has changed in the last year, and wow, thinking ahead to 2050, what better place to start than the big tech news? And of course, we've got this CES in the States right now, the Consumer Electronics Show. I think some big news there from one of the big players and drivers in our GenAI world, NVIDIA. So what have you been picking up there, and what's the significance to our followers today?
Yeah, so there's a lot happening, and I think we had a break for 2 weeks now. Yeah, but GenAI doesn't stop and AI doesn't stop. So we could go on for probably 30 or 60 minutes just on news and updates, what's happening. But we are not doing that. We are picking the real highlights. And the CEO of NVIDIA gave a keynote in Las Vegas at the CES. So the consumer show, still obviously very kind of gadget and hardware focused. And AI there is everywhere, infused into every device, in every solution. You will find AI. And NVIDIA is a key driver there. So they made a number of interesting announcements, and I want to pick one. So they basically opened the next evolution of AI or generative AI. After generative AI itself, then agentic AI, and then the next wave is AI robots. And they announced basically a framework and solutions, NVIDIA Cosmo, which will allow AI to basically fuse with robots. So what we will see in the future, that the physical parts become intelligent, be it robot in a machinery, at an assembly line, everywhere else in the household, and so on. So, and he basically said, and that's really interesting, as a final comment on that, the ChatGPT moment, which you remember is 2 years ago now, the ChatGPT moment of robots, of physical devices, is just around the corner, which means we will very soon be able to utilize basically every hardware easily. So that's kind of, I think, big news. We'll come back to that. And that will have implication on all companies and businesses. And obviously one function, which is a critical function in managing people, but maybe also other co-workers in the future, is HR. And Rob, you want to kind of share some insights on the HR side?
Yeah, I mean, this is fascinating. So one of the core functions where GenAI is playing a role and demonstrating the efficiency that HR, overstretched HR teams can be realizing is recruitment, but more than recruitment. So on one level, we can see that the automation plays in streamlining the recruitment process. Microsoft, a use case I found for a workshop recently, claiming that they're reducing the time taken to recruit by 54%. So what's that time being spent for? There are many areas, and I'm just going to call out 3 examples where HR teams are seeing some big advantages. The first is a personalized onboarding process. So it's often the case that you come into the organization, it takes some time before everything is set up, your hardware, your training programs, your induction to other parts of the organization. personalizing that whole experience makes this far faster and allows the onboarding of your most valuable asset, your people, in a fast and seamless way. Moving beyond that, looking at competency frameworks, so assessing how well they're doing. And it may well be that you've got staff doing a fantastic job in role. It may be that actually they have skills that could be deployed in other areas of the business. So looking at competency frameworks and performance reviews. And then finally, looking at individual development plans. So bespoke training programs, exposure to other parts of the business, rather than having a one-size-fits-all, running a more bespoke version of that. So that's really investing in talent, getting the most out of them. And of course, for all of us, it's a case of making sure we keep the best talent and open up opportunities for them, rather than seeing your staff getting dissatisfied or maybe not having the attention and the focus they deserve, and then leaving and all the costs associated with replacing them. So I think this is a really big area, Michael, and you're working right now on the human-centric approach to AI and AI strategy. How does that tie in with other parts of the business and other organizations you're working with?
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Really exciting perspectives and examples where GenAI is impacting the HR function and pretty quickly. And this is because there's a lot, they're dealing a lot with with text in language in some shape or form. So all of the learning is somewhere language related. And this also brings then the point across that things need to be human centered. You have to create the processes from a perspective that there is the human in the loop at key points in the process. And so you create your new processes and your strategies around those principles, to really empower your employees and to make those human centric. So you mentioned the significant time savings, which are there, which then allow, of course, to shift the free time, which might not be 55%, it might be overtime actually. Sometimes these departments are overstretched. This is not uncommon. So then suddenly you find that they are going back to a normal, so that they work their normal hours, which actually in itself is a significant improvement of the quality of work for people. If they don't have to work, let's say, so usually they have 40 hours, but they always work 50 hours per week. So this 10 hours is actually, that's a draining on their wellness. And so I think even if you take part of that and bring that back to normal, I think that's great. That's a huge benefit. And the other one is really then to shift to think about, okay, how do I do strategic resourcing and recruitment? How do I find the right people? Maybe I intensify the relationships to key partners, key players like universities and others. So you can shift actually resources to that, because you have then streamlined a rest of the activity. So that's a couple of ideas which come to mind here.
Yeah, it's interesting. And if we think about the amount of time it takes to find the right staff, the right talent, we can do so much in advance by looking at different data points, matching those up with job descriptions, and doing everything from automating interviews and the people involved in the interviewing process, the assessment of those results. So yeah, very significant opportunities here. But you mentioned there also well-being, and this is an interesting one. How much time are we spending really tracking well-being of our staff? And it's interesting if we look at the different types of roles. If you're office-based, clearly the conditions you're working in are rather easy to predict, and there are more likely to be well-being issues related to management and your working conditions and the people around. If you're off-site, and we've been doing some work, both of us, with logistics businesses, where a number of staff are out there in the field, often exposed to the elements, and being able to track everything from biometrics, making sure that their exposure to sun, to harmful situations, we can then be tracking that in real time with wearables, which allow us then to remedy those conditions quickly. Wellbeing is, of course, a really big area, but it will take different shapes according to where our staff are based. And again, we can bring this all within the gamut of GenAI tracking and then taking remedial action for each one. So yeah, really interesting area. So that's one of many business functions which spans across all industries. How would you say, Michael, that HR stands when we compare it with other disciplines? Could be looking at data, could be looking at project management. What advice for businesses wanting to really get started and move from the experimentation to something more scalable? Is HR a good place to start, or would you say there are other areas which are easier or equally straightforward when it comes to a standard approach across the business?
I love that question, Rob, and I think it's an interesting consideration. At the moment, still kind of the natural place to start is marketing. So, and I think more and more marketing departments are usually utilizing the opportunities and tools a lot. Given the nature of HR, it is a massive function, with massive impact, as we discussed. And so we had kind of the examples were very much more on the, let's say, the inside, from onboarding to kind of training, upskilling, and so on. At the same time, there's on the front end, so the recruiting process itself, has a lot of potential. So in principle, HR is a great place to really look into the right applications. And I would still say pilots, because most companies are still at the very beginning, so that's fine. What I suggest is be very careful and mindful about some of the regulations and restrictions, especially when it comes to recruiting. So anything automated there, screening and so on, you just need to have the risk assessments, especially when you are in Europe, with the AI Act, and take that into account. But that should be standard of a project approach, that you actually make these assessments. So that whole recruitment segment is an interesting one, because there's a lot of potential. It's very big, and it also has, of course, some risks. One of the exciting things you can look at there is when you free up some time there to explore more innovative approaches. So we're working with one company, Personalize from Australia, and they flipped the whole recruiting process on its head. So it's kind of this filtering down to the top level, to the top candidates, is done in a very different way. And actually in fun and entertaining way. So this gives kind of then the company the opportunity to explore these new paths and therefore be more attractive in the marketplace as well, which is kind of the key one to attract the best talents.
Yeah.
So in overall, definitely HR is a big one. So there's a lot of text there. So it's text heavy, it's language heavy, and that's perfect for the current models which are there. So therefore, it's exploring that. Always keep in mind the risks, and have always kind of that human in the loop. Even more important there, that you have that right hybrid mix of your approach, how you do that. So that's kind of my summary on the HR side.
Yeah, excellent. And if you're interested in seeing how to challenge the way that you're bringing AI into your HR processes, then Michael, we've got some way where we can help you. What would that be?
Absolutely, Rob. Our Maverick Solution Simulation is actually also addressing HR in one of the scenarios. So you get a great overview across kind of the various ways to apply GenAI, which gives you then some ideas. One particular one is on HR, and reach out to us for more information. You see the link beyondtheobvious.co/Maverick for more details on the Maverick simulation. And we are excited working with you on the simulation, on education, and then taking that into the organization. Reach out to us either here via LinkedIn, via email, via the website, and we can have a conversation how we can support you wherever you are in Europe, Middle East, Asia Pacific. We are here for you.
And I think that just to end on that, that leads into the final area in the simulation, which is becoming a change agent, and how can we be encouraging a culture which rewards those with a change agent mentality, who are wanting to go out there, try something new, and different ways that we can support you in doing that. So with that, thanks very much for joining us today, the first of our sessions this year. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time, where we'll be joined by our third partner, Marcus, based in Singapore. But with that, thanks for your time today, and see you next time.